Legacy is what you pass down to your children and to your children's children. It's what remains of you when you're gone. Many hope to create it. Many more hope to live up to it. Very few ever succeed. The legacy of this show hopes to be about what Westeros means to us, and what we hope it may mean to a new generation of fans, and the generation after that. Boasting discussions that will endure, passions that will rise, debates that will make the small council jealous. With a combined 44 years of experience behind a microphone, the hosts and guest hosts of this show are dedicated to the fans' experience in reviewing anything from Westeros, Essos, and beyond. This group is not the house of a lion, a direwolf, or even a dragon. This is a fraternity, a lineage, a house that endures beyond sigils, and aims to leave a legacy no other podcast has. So it's time to call the banners, for this is the House of the Empire.
Hey everybody, this is another fantastic episode of House of the Empire, talking about House of the Dragon. I'm Zach, and I have so many thoughts about how this episode is going to play out, because we took a poll to try and find out who some of the members of Phantom Empire believed were the best characters from Season 1 of House of the Dragon. And Sean was able to compile all of those notes and put them together into a really, really great list. And we're going to be talking about that list and discussing those characters on the show tonight. And by we, I obviously mean that it's not just me, and it's also not just me and Sean. Back for more Westerosi fun, it's Johnny Waters. Welcome back to the show.
Oh, it's great being back. I'm excited to talk about this one. I think it's going to be extremely fun just to see the variety on some of our lists. You get this many people ranking a relatively smaller pool of characters. I think it's going to be fun seeing where some of the smaller characters rank, or if they rank.
Yeah, there were some, I guess you would call them secondary characters or supporting cast members that probably left their mark in the show, but did they leave enough of a mark to make it into the top 10? And that's part of what we're going to find out tonight. Obviously, there are some characters that we would assume would make it into the top 5 or even the top 3, but the only person who really knows for sure is the guy not sneezing on the show on live broadcasts. Good Lord, that one snuck up on me. It's the guy on the bottom of the screen down there, the main man, the man of the hour. You're the only one who knows what's going on, dude. Did any of it surprise you at all?
Yeah, definitely. There's going to be something in here that's not surprising at all, but when you take 8 different people's lists, 8 different people that went and did some homework and came in with some results, it's very interesting putting all the lists side by side and then tallying them up and see how it played out. Like, the first number of the day is 18 different characters received votes. So maybe not as small of a character list as people think, but 18 of them received votes.
No, I think we probably named like everybody at that point. We're pretty close to it.
Yeah,
everybody with a name anyway.
That's pretty much the whole damn show right there. So somebody's getting mentioned tonight, and somebody, I guess, even though they received votes, is there any like kind of an honorable mention for like 11 through 18, or are we just looking at the 10?
The one that I would say, I'm bummed that he didn't make it, but at the same time, actually, there's 2 of them that I'm kind of bummed that they didn't make it, and that was the first one would have been number 12, and that was going to be Harwin Strong. Obviously, he doesn't get too much screen time, but the screen time he gets, I feel like he utilizes very well, and I thought the character was very compelling, and I like that the son and his sons definitely carry a bit of him with them, or at least two of them do now, anyway.
Mm.
And then the other one was Laenor. Laenor was number 11, did not make the top 10. I thought his character had a very compelling arc, and obviously the big switch from the books is he's alive at the end. So those two didn't make it. The interesting thing is, even while looking at this list of 18 characters, guys, I can think of at least 4 more characters that did not get votes.
Like characters that were in the show that didn't get mentioned.
Here's one. Aegon. Nothing. Not a single vote from anybody.
Well, because he's a little bitch.
But a significant character still in the show. So,
I mean, but this is favorite, right? I mean, that does.
I think a favorite best. There was some.
Yeah, but they meld, right? I mean, we're always going to put favorites above the storylines. So.
Faithful little spoiled cunt who doesn't deserve to be receiving votes.
Oh, he's a piece of shit. Make no mistake about it. But you just assume. Well, so is Otto Hightower. So, and he got plenty of votes.
Well, I guess there's not a whole lot left to do other than dive right into it if you guys are ready.
Yes.
So I'm curious to knock out like 10 through 6 so we can get into like who the actual top 5 were.
So we definitely got time for each position here. Harwin and Kristen Cole were actually tied for 12th at 7 points. And then 11th was Laenor with 12 points, and finishing just above him in the number 10 position is Lionel Strong. 13 points, 13 of a possible 80 points for Lionel, edging out Laenor. What do you guys think of Lionel in the show, and does it surprise you that he made the top 10?
Well, it doesn't surprise me because I had him in my top 10. So
he was in my top 10 as well, and I particularly enjoyed the stability that his character brought to the show. Everybody else was kind of backstabbing, pretty selfish, and it seemed like Lionel was truly interested in stability in the realm and what alliances and decisions were best for the kingdom and not what was best for his ambition. And that's what I feel like a Hand of the King should be. So the fact that he got rewarded for his sage advice, even when he wasn't serving as the Hand, was very fitting and very proper. And then the notion that he didn't want to dishonor his house with the actions of his children and tried to resign his post. Like, he truly did not want to be the Hand, I don't think. But he served his king and he served the realm well. And he was played very well by Gavin Spokes. So I am glad that he made the 10. I'm sad that he's only at number 10, but I'm glad that he made the 10.
Yeah, I mean, everything Zach said. He spoke truth to power, and nobody else really did that. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So when his character started to, sort of, I don't even want to say take center stage, but once we see Viserys go to him that first time or two, I kind of thought to myself, this mother Canucker have some hidden motives. What's up his sleeve? And in reality, he kind of ended up like Varys from Game of Thrones a little bit. He legitimately just wanted what was best for the realm.
He did.
And like Varys, he died for it, basically, only at the hands, or at least at the bidding of his own son.
I was about to say at the feet, but that's a whole rabbit trail I don't want to go down.
Oh, you'll like the picture. It's fitting. It's fitting because number 9, Larys Strong with
this bitch
points, and that image is him looking down at the feet. So,
Nope.
Johnny, what do you got to say about Larys? Is 14 out of possible 80 points surprising to you? Are you surprised he's in the top 10?
I think like the first 3 quarters of the season, he would have made my top 10 walking, because he was interesting. I like the way he played the game. And then you get to those last few episodes, and you go from you're interesting to, oh, you're a skeevy pervert. And it just the character got weird. Before that, it was interesting, and then just got weird. And there's certainly time to rectify it and vindicate the character and make him interesting again. But you just got weird, and it did not make my list.
He was only in 6 episodes, according to IMDb. And what's really funny is it was that one episode that he really made his mark. And I'm truly torn about his character, because I thought he was scummy to begin with, but then to find out he was also pervy on top of it was just it was gross. But it was also the kind of gross that we haven't really gotten on Game of Thrones before. And so his character was still compelling, even if he was a character that I didn't like. And that's why he made it in my top 10. He may have even been my number 9. I can't remember. But he made it into my list just because he was one of those types of characters that I love to hate. He wasn't a character that I truly loved, but I enjoyed his presence. I enjoyed what he brought to the show and what he brought to the table. And so even with only 6 episodes, and even with the feet picks episode, like there were still aspects of his character that helped move and advance the plot of the show. And he helped make the show more interesting.
You had him at number 9, and I had him at number 7. I think his character is very intriguing, and I don't know if it's a matter of is he willing to get dirty in order to get what he wants. I think the question is just how dirty and perverted is he willing to get to achieve his end goal. And I think there's more to come in regards to that.
More to come? Is that what you said?
More to come. Yeah. And honestly, though, I don't know. I don't even know the actor who plays this fella, but you got to give it to him. He is downright creepy and makes me. I mean, he makes me cringe more than Halloween Ends did in terms of like just, oh my God, I'm scared. It makes me cringe about just as much as Halloween Ends did, though, in terms of, oh, fuck, you're a creep.
So I'm taking a look at his IMDb list. He had a small part in the TV miniseries Chernobyl. He was in a TV series in the mid-2000s called Casualty. He was in a couple of episodes of Doctor Who, actually. And then he's going to be in a 2023 production of something called Much Ado About Nothing. I think he may have been in one episode of Sherlock as well. But for the most part, Matthew Needham is a relatively new to the scene actor and not super, super well known. But he definitely brought a lot to the table in this show and in this season.
Yeah, an interesting statistic with the way that his character played out in this countdown is the fact that he only gained 3 votes. Only 3 of 8 people voted for him. And he's not only in the top 10, he's number 9. So that lets you know somebody that's not Zach or myself has him significantly higher on their list.
It's the only way he could get that many points.
Yep.
I was concerned with the scoring system for a minute there when you both kind of gave your numbers up for very ranked, and it's like, where did he get that many points from?
Far higher than I expected to see on anybody's list. So that'll be an interesting one to come back to. Number 8, fellas. It's the one-eyed Daemon himself, Aemond. Aemond Targaryen, who I think the last fella that portrayed this guy here for the last few episodes obviously made his mark far more than the kid did in my mind. What's your guys' thoughts on Aemond? And he collected 30 of a possible 80 points.
I definitely, again, enjoyed what Aemond brought to the table. I do think that the younger Aemond did bring something as well. I think it's played by Leo Ashton, and I do think that his gaining of Vhagar was a big turning point in the dramatis that took place in this show. But when he grew up and he started making puns, started making jokes about Rhaenyra's kids, you knew that he was up to no good. And so I think this is an appropriate place for him, but I'm also really, really intrigued to see what happens to you and Mitchell next, because now that we have reached the present day, I think Mitchell is going to bring so much to season 2. And so Mike Bish says perfect spot for Aemond. I kind of agree. This is a good spot for him to be in right now. But if we are to rank season 2 characters, I think he'll end up higher.
Yeah, but I think this is a character who we didn't get to see his full potential until the end. You know, it was like the younger Aemon was interesting and there was potential there, but it wasn't until he grew up that the character really reached maximum potential as far as, you know, being the equal to the mantle of craziest Targaryen in the room. And the character was very interesting. I mean, I had him right middle pack for me. I mean, he was 6 on my list. So I'm okay with him falling down a bit off the total, but this is a character that I think is going to be much higher on the season 2 list than he is on the season 1 list, just because of there's going to be more of him. I think a lot more.
Yeah, significantly more. And I think he's going to be one of those characters that just because he's on the greens, you're probably going to cheer against him, and yet at the same time, you're going to be conflicted because clearly the guy's acting performance already has been astounding.
I think he's without doubt going to be the most interesting person on that team, bar none.
Oh, for sure. I mean, fucking speaking of coming earlier.
No.
I mean,
Good
just
Lord.
watching Aemond and Daemon, like those two are going to bring all sorts of intrigue and violence and a bunch of other things to the show. They're definitely the wild cards on each
Very
side.
much so.
Yeah, I had him at 7, so having him at 8 doesn't really surprise me. That sounds about where he should be.
With Eamon, he garnered 7 votes, so only one person did not vote for him, and he was as low as number 10 out of those 7 at one point in time, and he was high as number 4 on one person's list.
Mm.
And, actually, that was on Kieran's list. Kieran had him at number 4.
Why does that not surprise me? I feel like Kieran's going to be cheering for the Greens in season 2.
That son of a bitch. Anyways, let me take a moment here to give some shameless self-promotion. If you want to support the channel on another level, feel free to head on over to Patreon, patreon.com/Fandom Empire. We offer all sorts of different content there, including the Lampkin Lane show right now, which is our Halloween show. You can also catch a bonus episode of the Overlook Drive-In over there, as well as this show coming up later this month. You'll be able to get a bonus episode of it over there. And also, big thank you to our sponsors of this episode. I was going to say video episode. Chris C_78, who is a horror mask rehauler. Check him out on Instagram and Twitter. Greatly appreciate the support Chris provides, not just this show. Chris sponsors the whole channel. So big thank you to Chris for that. And to Jesse, who you can check out at Bunce Forest Trauma. And there is where you can find his socials. He is a big Game of Thrones fan. And because of us, fellas, we actually got him to try House of the Dragon. So he was on the fence, and we got him there. So just doing that once makes me feel decent.
We pushed him off the fence. I hope you feel good about yourself, Sean.
Well, I mean, depends. And depends how big the fence was. Coming in at number 7, Corlys Valerian with 30 of a possible 80 points. He had the tiebreaker due to higher votes than Aemon Targaryen.
Honestly, I feel like that's a little low. This may be the first hot take, but even though he was absent for a couple of episodes, I feel like he and his family were big movers and shakers in this show, and I feel like he deserves a little better. So I'm glad that he's in the 10, but honestly, I feel like 7's a bit of a low ball for a character of Steve Toussaint's charisma and capabilities.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
thought he. Sorry, go ahead,
Go ahead.
Johnny.
I
No,
mean,
you
I'm-
first.
Go ahead.
I'm-
Go ahead. Damn you, Canadians! Stop being so fucking polite.
No, you talk. No, you talk.
No, I'm 1,000% perfectly okay with this because Corliss Valerian is number 7 on my list. So I think he's ranked perfectly for the things that he did. Again, he's a character who there was a lot of gravitas and a lot of force between that they did, but I think basically taking a powder when the rubber hit the road and only coming back at the end of it took away some of that flush to get him higher on the list, and I'm happy he's on the list, and I'm perfectly satisfied with where he is because, like I said, that's right where I ranked him. So I got it right, I guess.
I'm just trying to see where I had him on my list. Zach, do you know where you had him on your list?
Yeah, I've got my list. I had him at 4. I had him as a top 5 player. So
I had him at 6.
I had him as a top caliber acting performance influencer in the story, and again, maybe being such a plot driven person, I felt like he and his family drove the plot about as well as anybody, and even in his absence, they were making note of it, and they were trying to figure out what the next steps were. There were like 2 whole episodes dedicated to the inheritance of Driftmark and whether it should go to Rhaenyra's kids or if it should go to somebody else. And so there was a lot that happened to him, but a lot of stuff that also happened around him and stuff that happened in his great halls. I see that as an all-encompassing portion of Corliss's character, and for those things, I guess, to not have been considered quite as much kind of saddens me because I had him as a top 4 character.
Yeah, so in terms of the numbers, he was voted on by 7 of the 8 people. His highest position was with you, Zach, at number 4, and his lowest position for the lists that he did make was number 9 on 2 different lists. So some interesting numbers.
I completely disagree with those people who had him at 9. I do not see 8 characters in the show being better than Corliss.
Obviously I don't, because I had him at 6. So, but I could see the argument for maybe have just because he disappeared for a while. I think we went without him for what basically the better part of 3.5, 4 episodes almost. So I could see why maybe him disappearing from the
I think
eyesight.
Zach alluded to it best when he said things happened around him, not with him. Like, and that definitely hurt his rank. If he had been there for, all of the concerns on, who would be next in line after him coming back from battle and dealing with all that, then I think it's a completely different discussion. But, he missed the most important storyline he was a part of, and that definitely hurt his ranking.
He's got credit on IMDb for 7 episodes, though, so he only missed 3.
That's just credited, though. I mean, IMDb does have a tendency of giving you credit when you're mentioned, not when you appear.
One of the episodes he was hardly in too. So, and yeah, I don't think he was in there in 9. He definitely wasn't in there in 8, and I don't know about 7. So, yeah. Anyway, but I would like to see him higher. Again, I had him at 6, but he's number 7. But who is number 6? It's sneaky bastard himself, Otto Hightower, number 6 on the list with 32 of 80 points.
Fuck that bitch.
I'm gonna be honest, fellas. I thought he was gonna be higher.
I had him a bit higher on my personal list. I mean, he made it as high as 4 for me. But I think this is sort of, on pace because he is a very polarizing character. I think for a lot of people, either you love him or you hate him. And I think depending on where you fall in that spectrum, it makes sense that he would either be very high on lists or very low on lists. Not a lot of sort of mid.
He almost wasn't even on my list. He is right at.
I'm sorry, you're saying that Corlys Valerian is so important and significant to the storyline that he has to appear on every list, but Otto Hightower almost didn't make your list?
Otto Hightower did not.
Otto Hightower is the reason there's a series.
Otto Hightower is.
Otto Hightower is the reason we have a Dance with Dragons. If Otto Hightower, we talk about, you see those memes where it's like the story, if this character doesn't exist. Without Otto Hightower, there is no House of the Dragon. Period.
Remind me again, Zach. I honestly can't remember. I'm not taking shots here at all. Were you a Littlefinger fan or no?
I was, but I feel like Littlefinger played the game better.
Otto has the right hand of the king. Literally handpicked the king. How did Littlefinger play the game better when he didn't even see his own defeat coming?
Littlefinger rose up through the ranks from nothing. Hightower was born into this, and he didn't really have to work all that hard to manipulate someone as weak as Viserys. The type of manipulation that Littlefinger went to get to becoming Lord of the Vale and being moments away from Lord of Winterfell takes a grander undertaking than what Otto was.
None of those is King's Landing.
He was in King's Landing. He had influence in King's Landing.
Never that close.
He had the Queen's ear. And she was the one who was ruling the kingdom more than anybody else.
He had the ear of a crazy person. Otto managed to stay in the ear of the most level-headed king Westeros has probably ever seen.
Did he really? Because he got deposed. He got kicked out.
And then got brought back.
People called him out.
Same king.
People called him out on his bullshit. And got rid of him.
When that king was on his deathbed, knowing the end is coming, who does he choose to be his hand? Again. Otto Hightower. He doesn't next level Henderson. He doesn't go to somebody else. He goes back to Otto.
That's like going back to an ex-girlfriend because you don't want to play the market. The king was too old and weak to go through the actual selection process. So he was just like, fuck it, I'm going to give it to somebody that I know has done it before and knows what's expected. Even if I don't trust him, he knows what to do, and I can just go on autopilot. Boom. OTTO pilot.
This has been entertaining. As I try to get a graphic ready too. So the thing with Otto here is, like, obviously I don't like him as a person. I think he's a piece of shit. A conniving son of a bitch who was after my boy Viserys. I mean, part of me is like, okay, he did kind of have, some respect for Viserys, and then part of me is like, did he really? I'm very conflicted with how he actually felt about the king, because they play it off, and even the creators play it off early in the show as if, like, no, he legitimately loves the king, but he also has his own opinion on how things should go after, the king is gone, which clearly plays out. So I'm very conflicted with the character. So when I was doing my list, I wasn't necessarily going, hey, these are the characters I cheer for the most. For me, it was a matter of what characters are the most compelling on screen to me that I like to watch the most, even if I don't necessarily like them or would cheer for them. And Otto was up there for me. Johnny and I both had a number 4 on our list. Although conveniently enough, 2 people didn't have them on their list at all. And one person who did have them had them at number 10. So those three people definitely hurt Otto's standing on this list. But hey, that's the great thing about doing something like this is you get a variety, and it comes out at number 6 with 32 points. Are we at all surprised that it was as low as 32?
I mean, like I said, he's a very polarizing character. Either you love him or you hate him. And so, no, I'm not surprised. I figured there'd be a lot of variance. I thought that, I honestly thought somebody would have him in the top 3. So if there's anything that's surprising me, it's that he didn't make a podium appearance on any list. And by that same token, I'm not surprised he wasn't featured on some lists. So it pretty much balanced out. I thought Otto was a character who probably rank around the middle, and that's right where he did.
All right. Well, before we break into the top 5, Zach, why don't you tell us about what you're doing right now, dude?
Well, I mean, Zach Arnold Productions has been working hard all season doing high school football games in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, predominantly the high school that my dad went to. I know the football coach there personally, and he's been allowing me to call football games for his team for the last 4 seasons now, and they just made it to the playoffs. So the first round of the postseason is this coming weekend, and we'll see where we go from there. The defense is definitely better this year, and we'll see if the offense has enough to win a football game. We are playing the exact same opponent that we have played in the first round of the playoffs for the 3rd year in a row. And they beat us last year, and we beat them the year before us, the year before that. So this is kind of round 3 tiebreaker type of game for us, and we'll see where it goes. So I'm doing that, and then when I'm able to, ZAP is also working on the Intergalactic Peace Coalition. We're doing kind of monthly episodes at this point, just because of Ben's and my schedule. So just go find that logo. Just search IPC Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. There's a public group called the Intergalactic Peace Hangout where we'll sometimes present our top 5 prompts for the top 5 segment of the episode. But yeah, we're probably doing episodes once a month with that over there. And with the XFL returning, ZAP is probably also going to try to do something related to the newly relaunching XFL, but there's still a lot of behind the scenes stuff going with that. So that's why there's no logo, because we don't really have a logo. We don't really have a name for the project yet. But IPC and high school football, and hopefully something with the XFL in the near future.
Awesome, man. Glad you're keeping busy and that you got a lot going on.
Well, we got a new guy at work too, and I was training him all day today. So I'm already talked out and kind of running on Red Bull. So let's get this knocked out so I can go to bed.
All right, number 5. It's the queen that never was, Rhaenys Targaryen. 35 of the possible 80 points coming in at number 5. I have to admit, fellas, as much as I love this character, and I do love this character, I was surprised to see her get more votes than Corlys and Otto. I thought she'd be around that number 7 area.
I don't think it surprised me all that much. I think she was kind of building up her character's clout, if you will, in the first half of the season, but then her and her storming of the coronation in episode 9 kind of sealed her as not just an expert at playing the game, and not just someone who has figured out where her place in society is, but someone who is a CBA certified badass, and she certified herself and solidified herself as a top 5 candidate for me with that. I think I only had her at 6, but my wife had her at 5, so this is right around the spot I expected her to be.
Yeah, I mean, I loved her character. I thought, even though we didn't get much of her too much of her early on, they did a good job of teasing what the character was about, and the early dynamic between her and Rhaenyra, and how that plays out in the end. I really dug the character. I really dug Eve Best's performance. I'm really invested in her character going forward, and glad that she is back for season 2. So looking forward to what the character has to offer. And in terms of the numbers, before we get to Johnny, 7 of 8 people voted for her, and some people pretty high too. So that's pretty impressive. I mean, I don't know if I thought this character was going to connect with people as much as she did, and I think that's only good for the show. Johnny, what do you think?
I mean, for me, I had her low on my list. I had her down at 9. So, this is higher than I would have expected. I thought she'd be, a back tier player. Just because for a large part of the story, she was sort of around all of the important things, but she just sort of took a back seat to them. She let them happen. Didn't, she just sort of went with the flow of everything. It wasn't until, after both of her kids were gone and, she was placed in the position at Driftmark where she was, sitting on the throne of Driftmark, while Corliss was off at war, and then her, her captivity at King's Landing, and, her urgence at the coronation of her, whatever Aegon is to her. It was then that you finally got to see the fire in the heart of Rhaenys. She was the queen that never was. She was a character that things happened to, not that. She's an intense character. Don't get me wrong, but she just sort of stood. She sort of just let everything roll off her back. She was calm. She's a badass woman, but she was very calm. It wasn't until the end that you got to see the fire and the passion behind that I think, again, this is another character that I think next season, when she lets that out, I think this is another character who's going a much better season 2 than season 1.
Yeah, I can agree to that. I do see her as having kind of a I wouldn't call it maybe a backstage type of role. She's not front and center. She's not a central key character like Rhaenyra or Daemon. But I think she made the most of her screen time, and I think that's what helped her climb so high for me. Was every scene she was in, she may not have commanded attention, but I think she commanded respect. And sometimes that type of respect and honor for who she is and the legacy that she carries and what she represents, sometimes that's a little bit more important than being the badass wild card type of character that Daemon or Aemond could end up being.
Yeah, I quite enjoyed the character. Like I said before, I'm really looking forward to what the character brings in season 2. And Beth sounded like she had the time of her life playing this character. So that's always good too. When the performer actually enjoys what they're doing, you usually get a better performance out of it.
Absolutely.
Moving on to number 4. It's the Green Queen herself, Alicent Hightower. Number 4, 42 of a possible 80 points. What did you fellas think of Alicent Hightower in season 1, and specifically both actresses' performance?
I mean, I thought they were phenomenal. The performance was great. I love the character. She bumped up one from my list to the overall list. I had her at 5, so I think she's right around where she should be. It was definitely, as far as storyline went, like I've said, if you've watched this show long enough, I knew the lore, I knew the history, and she is the character that the image I had painted in my head from the book to the character we see on the screen is probably the most different. And I enjoyed that about this character a great deal, because she was so, a character sort of being pulled along by the machinations of, others, and specifically her father. And I enjoyed that when we got to see Alicent step forward and take control of the situations and take control of the circumstances, like her father, and like Viserys. And every time we actually saw Alicent be Alicent, I loved it. I loved seeing the fire in her eyes after Aemon lost his eye, and she and Rhaenyra had the fight in front of everyone. It's just, I loved seeing that come through, and that was tempered by the love and passion that she had for the other characters. I mean, specifically Rhaenyra. Again, that relationship, young Alicent and old Alicent, you get to see that relationship, and it's definitely different than we had in the book, but obviously that's mostly because of the age change to Rhaenyra from the book. So they had to change that relationship a bit, but they changed it in a way that made it better in my mind. because it puts the characters closer together, which makes the conflict that much more intense. So I love this. I love the placement. I love the character, and again, I think going forward, she's only going to continue to go higher on these lists as the seasons progress.
I'm glad you enjoyed her character so much, Johnny. She was not even in my 10. She would be even higher if I had cast any kind of a vote for her. And I didn't.
Tommy B had her at 2, along with someone else who had her at 2.
My wife.
Oh wow. Okay. Uh-oh.
I can't.
You can deal with the fallout of that one yourself.
My lovely wife had her at 2. And I can see why she or Johnny would have them like that, but I did not care for her character. I did not care for her portrayal. I did not care for what a punk ass, weak ass bitch she was. I did not care at all. I did not feel compelled by anything she brought to the table.
You guys remember when we were shitting all over Johnny for calling Kristen Cole a punk ass bitch early on? I remember that episode. I'm not saying that there's a correlation between the two, but I remember us being all over Johnny because of Kristen Cole being a bitch like 2 episodes in. It's like, oh, come on, give him a chance, man. Oh, fuck. No, he was a bitch. He became a big
And then we get to episode 10, everybody's like, yeah, no, you're right. I'm like, damn right I was. He's a bitch. Which is why he made my list as number 12, unranked, because he's a bitch. I called him Kristen Cuntface.
I had Allison at 8. I struggled. At one point, she was 10 for me. I do expect the character as we go here to go higher up my list. I thought that we've seen elements of Cersei starting to come out towards the end, which explains why they also had her audition for the role while using Cersei lines. So,
Only not crazy.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to see where the character goes for sure. In terms of numbers, only 7 of 8 people voted for her, and obviously we know.
Well, I guess we know who the 8th was.
2 people had Allison at number 2. And out of the people that did vote for her, 1 person had her at number 10. So there you have it. Allison at a number 4. Am I doing that right?
This is where it gets interesting.
Yeah, it's the top 3. But before we get into there, man, what do you got going on? What's going on with John?
Oh, man, not as much as I'd like to have going on. You know, we're working at some back of house stuff right now, trying to improve the viewer experience. You know, we've got some new overlay stuff, some new audio notifications and stuff like that, just to help with the viewer interaction as we go. But it's interesting. You know, we've definitely got some games coming out that I'm looking forward to playing. Yeah, we're working hard at the back house stuff. It's, I mean, you know as well as I do, you know, pulling together stuff and editing it together can really be a bitch sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, it can. To the point I might have neglected one of those things today. So just trying to catch up on everything as I die here on my joint because of what Mike said. Olivia Cook is a phenomenal actress. So damn good and hot. Very hot.
I was unaware she had a temperature issue.
And my other half says super hot. I agree. I don't know how I feel about this. Someone call Olivia up, see what she's doing tonight. Do what? I don't get what Mike's saying here. Do what?
I think that's in response to Zach not having her ranked and everything that follows that based on the time.
Oh, we got Team Zach, Team Mike, future episode. Let them go to war over Allison. But yeah, it is podium time.
I think we're just going to have to go to war over the high towers, period.
You can have her.
It is podium time. And we're probably, nobody should be surprised in the top 3, maybe the order that they're in, but I think this was always going to be the top 3. I think it was going to be damn hard to not have this as the top 3. and some early numbers before we get into the top three. These three characters were the only characters that garnered votes from every single person on the list. And the other interesting tidbit is the person who won did not garner the most first place votes, which lets you know somebody got screwed.
That is
So they got the
Okay.
most. They got the most overall points, but not the most first place votes.
Correct. So, which
so.
means
Somebody really got
and-
shafted by somebody, is what you're saying.
Man,
Yeah,
the
and we'll get to
Associated Press would be having a field day with this. kind of
The important question is: are you going to name and shame who did the dirty?
I am. I'm going to do it, and then they can. I mean, they're screwed after that anyway. So, I mean, we've named other shit. We've named our stuff.
It's
off.
Kieran, isn't it? Kieran fucked it, didn't he?
I'd actually have to go back and look quickly. Yeah, it's Kieran with a character. That's all I'll say. So,
I'm surprised by it, but I'm not.
number 3, ladies and gentlemen, with 67 points, it's Matt Smith's Daemon Targaryen. 67 of a possible 80 points. Let me just say that I was disappointed in every one of you mother Canuckers that participated in this list, because I was the only one that had this guy at number 1. And honestly, I guess I'm more disappointed in myself, because I thought for sure when I looked at these lists, maybe not everybody, but I thought Johnny would definitely have him at number 1. I thought a couple other people would have him at number 1. I'm like, wow, okay, I guess I'll go fuck myself. I'm the only one that gave him a first place vote.
Wow, that was the worst Tommy B impression I've ever heard.
I love this character. This character is almost like Jaime Lannister meets Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z on screen, and he's so dynamic. Every time he's on screen, whether you agree with what the character is doing or not, he's entertaining as hell. And we're definitely blessed with being able to see this character for a lot longer. Easily, like if we were doing a top character list of all Game of Thrones right now, he'd be way, way, way up my list. Like easily top 5 for sure.
I think he probably would be, but I think he'd be probably clocking in around that 5 or 6 spot. There's still some pretty great characters from Game of Thrones that would probably be a little bit higher. But the thing that I don't know, maybe didn't quite sell me for him as a number 1 would probably be how unpredictable he was in the first half of the season, and then almost too predictable he was in the second half of the season. Like once he got Rhaenyra, once he was wed to Rhaenyra, it was pretty obvious that his loyalty was to her, to only her, and that all of his actions would be focused on her and about her. For the longest time up until that point, even when he was with Laena, there were just so many unpredictable, selfish postures that he would take. And the turnaround that happens in the second half of the season was a little bit jarring to me. And so, yes, I love the attention that he commands on screen. I love the role that he plays and how well he plays it. I love that he has made a name for himself beyond Doctor Who and The Crown. Like this is a huge step up for Matt Smith. This is a great character in the form of Daemon, and I'm glad that he's on the podium. But yeah, I'm a little surprised that he is third out of the 3.
I mean, for me, I think he's right where he should be. I had him at number 3 on my list. But the difference between 1, 2, 3 literally came down to, microscopic differentiations between the characters. I think, there's a few moments over the course of the season that I think take away from Daemon's higher ranking. There was a few points where the character was very one-dimensional, but the points where he was, where you got to see both sides of Daemon Targaryen, I think were the best. So some of the acting that Matt Smith pulled out this season were some of my favorite. But I think there's just a few moments that were lacking that sort of took away from the character. Especially I think the as crazy as it seems, the scene with the Crab King, like that whole battle sequence, actually knocked points for him, just because it was so mid. Like, it was visually amazing, but the actual content was just mid. And then you didn't actually see the battle with the Crab King, and you just see him carrying out the half corpse. It just, where they could have made Daemon something supremely special that they just sort of skipped over.
They wanted to, sorry to cut you off. They wanted to do more with that sequence you're talking about, and they ran into restriction issues, and then they ran into location issues where they could not do what they wanted to do, to the point where they literally had to make on very little notice, a makeshift beach on their parking lot in order to film what they filmed. And I just thought to myself, is it the best thing we've ever seen in any Game of Thrones show? No. But to do that on your back parking lot reminds me of what they were able to do with Beyond the Wall in season 7 for Game of Thrones, where they didn't know what the hell to do, so they shot it on the back parking lot, which is to be able to do that, it's pretty fucking awesome still.
I mean, there are plenty of examples of beach sequences that take place in a parking lot. Like, if freaking Gilligan's Island can do it, Game of Thrones can do it. Fuck.
So yeah, there you have it. Daemon Targaryen, number 3, the bronze medal for the Rogue Prince. Some of the numbers, all 8 voters voted for him. The lowest he was on the list was number 5, and the highest was number 1. He had, 1, 2, 3 second place votes and 3 third place votes. So he was very popular with people. I just want to take a second and catch everybody up on some of the characters that got votes that are not on the list. Lucerys got 2 votes for a total of 2 points. Laenor, who we mentioned earlier, got 12 votes, 3 from 3 different people. Harwin got 7 votes from 3 different people. 7 points. Kristen Cole had 2 votes for a total of 7 points. Harold Westerling had 2 votes for a total of 2 points. Eric with an E had 1 vote for a total of 2 points. Helena had 1 vote for a total of 3 points. And Lena had a total of 2 votes for a total of 5 points. So those are the characters that garnered votes but did not make the list.
Just glad I'm not the only one who respelled Westerling.
So here we have it. Daemon was number 3 with 67 points. Number 2
out, people.
with 67 points is Rhaenyra Targaryen, coming in runner-up on the season. 67 points. She gets the tiebreaker over Daemon for having more first-place votes. She actually has the most first-place votes in this thing, with 4 people voting her at first place, 1 person voting her at second, and 3 people voting her at third. The one that killed her is she got a 9th place vote in this draft. Or not draft, but in this tally of, I guess, favoritism or who people think are the best. But a 9th feels pretty unacceptable to me. I don't know.
Pretty unacceptable?
But yeah, I mean...
that person's voting privileges have been revoked for all future top 10 lists.
Yeah, I won't bring that person up again. We mentioned them earlier, but yeah, it hurt it.
I can't. That's like, I mean,
I am
so long enough.
not even able to even.
I mean, Zach and I got into it over Otto
What?
and Allison.
Not even able to even? What?
I'm right there with him. I can't even with this person right now.
I am incapable of evening.
I mean, that's... There's ridiculous, and then there's ridiculous. Like, you know, Zach's disgusting hate of Allison and Otto, I can deal with. But this is just...
I'll go ahead and say it, guys. I like her character more than I ever liked Daenerys in Game of Thrones, and we had 8 seasons.
Same.
And I love Dany. Dany was great, but I don't know, something about this character I was just hooked to.
I mean, I guess we'll have to wait and see, because, like, Dany pre-final season, I loved a great deal, but that final season sort of ruined, specifically that last episode, just ruined so much of the goodwill Dany had with me that it's very hard for me to disagree with your point. Like, Rainier, I think... I can't.
Mike Bish says 9th? Whoa, I think.
How do you even pronounce that? Is it wow, 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 wow?
I believe it's just wow.
I would need a couple more O's in there. Like, that's a heavy. I just see consecutive W after W, and I'm just like, wow, 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 wow. That's all I see.
Yeah, I think Jade said it best a little earlier. She said, where is it here? I don't know if I can still access it, but I don't think I can. That's unfortunate. Oh, no, there it is. It's the Westeros screw job. It certainly feels that way.
That's ridiculous. I feel like a list like that should have been accompanied by like a 500-word essay to explain yourself. Because, like,
it was hard enough to get people to give the list on time, let alone give a fucking essay. Jeez.
I mean, I had mine in about 12 hours to spare, I think, ish.
Where did you guys have Daenerys on your list?
I had her at 1.
Zach? I don't remember. 3? I had her at 3 as well.
I had her taking bronze, Damon at silver, and somebody else taking the gold.
Well, I think we know who that is. Let's be real.
Well,
I can't.
Sorry, I know. You want to? There'll be more time. We'll have him on here another day, and you can feed him his.
He just needs a whole. This person just needs a whole episode to just explain themselves.
We just need, like.
I don't know if I can listen to that.
feed him to the dragon.
I didn't need a whole episode to try and sway even one person to understanding why Rainier came in 9th.
Name me, I swear to God, name me 8 other characters in this show that were more compelling than she was. I could name you 2. I couldn't name you 8.
I could name you 0 because I voted her number 1. I'm not alone. Since this character got the most number 1 votes.
She's definitely like a top 10 Game of Thrones character for me. Like, in terms of the 2 shows combined.
I think she's a podium all-time Game of Thrones character after 1 season.
And not to mention 2 different people playing the part too, and they did it so fucking well.
Exactly.
Speaking of full episodes, though, you can check out the Overlook Drive-In tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern. We are talking Halloween Resurrection. That's right. Get your scorecards out. We're going to grade that masterpiece, or lack thereof, tomorrow night on the Overlook Drive-In. So be sure to tune in to that. We would love to have each and every one of you over there for that show. Mike and I do a decent enough job on it, I think. And we'll also be talking some movie news, and some movie news that's out today is finally, not that it's going to be any good, but finally, Gears of War is going to be made, and it's going to be made by Netflix, which I question how much money they're going to be willing to put into it.
They threw a ton of money at a lot of other stuff.
Bro.
They're going to have a ton of money to make that look even half decent.
Bro, Sage, did you know that Tommen's going to be in Star Wars?
No, I
Is
didn't.
he on the
part of
accolade list?
He got put on the Acolyte cast list today.
Yeah, I was talking about the Acolyte cast list earlier with Ian on Moose Too Far, which will come up tomorrow morning. And actually, we were doing it as all that stuff was dropping, so it was fun to sort of pull it up there. But if you're a movie fan, check out the Overlook Drive-In. Here's a look at the percentages we've got so far from our movies. And we've done 8 to this point, so that's our top 5 there. Tune in to check out all the rest, the Overlook Drive-In. Without further ado, though, ladies and gentlemen, number 1, the king himself, King Viserys Targaryen the Peaceful, collecting 70 of 80 points. The numbers on him are quite simple. He had 3 first-place votes. Everybody voted for him. His worst vote was 4th place. I questioned.
God damn it, Kieran!
I questioned whether anybody was going to like this character as much as I did, and I'm glad to see that not only did people like him as much as I did, some people had him higher than I did. I had him at number 2 on my list.
I also had him at 2, obviously. I'm okay with him being number 1. I don't have an issue with. I have an issue with the way he got to number 1, but that's something else altogether. But no, I mean, as a character, I think he was the most. I don't want to say flat because the connotations of that aren't accurate to the point I'm making. But
Of course, he
was
flat.
the most
He didn't have
consistent. He was the most consistent character across the entire season, and his story. That I loved the character. I thought he was a phenomenal character. I mean, again, I'm right there with George R.R. Martin, who thinks that the performance from Paddy was 1,000 times better than the character in the book. I'm with that 100%. I love the character. Paddy had just a simply phenomenal performance. Especially as the old feeble king. He pulled that off so well. It's award worthy, if I'm being honest. Like, if it had been in a film, I would put him up for best actor, performance as a film. And I think he should get Emmys for that performance. So, I have no issue with him at 1, other than how badly Rhaenyra was screwed out of number 1. But that's another issue altogether.
Jade is correct. The lowest vote was him at 5th place, not 4th place. That's my mistake. Points are still the same though. I loved this character. Again, its character hit home for me in a way that I didn't even know about going in, if I'm being honest, not to the extent that they showed on screen. And Paddy Considine, it's weird because the only thing I really remember seeing him in was Hot Fuzz. And if you've seen him in Hot Fuzz, it's polar opposite of this character. So, like, I didn't know what to expect from him whatsoever. And he blew me away and is absolutely a top 5 favorite character of mine in Game of Thrones.
You were mentioning earlier, Johnny, about an award-worthy performance. I don't think there's any higher honor. Like, even an Emmy Award, in my estimation, does not compare to the author of your source material reaching out to you and saying, your character is better than the character I wrote. I can honestly think of no higher praise. If I ever was an actor and I got that from Martin or George Lucas or anybody, Stephen King, any of these fantastic authors that have, just amazing source material. If I was to get that from anybody, then I would print that and frame it and ask them to autograph it and all these other things. And it would just be worth so much more to me than an Emmy Award or an Oscar. Because to not only embrace a character and portray it as well as Paddy did, but to receive praise from fans and reviewers like us and the author himself, that is just the epitome of consistency, as you said. But not just consistency. Like, yes, he was a consistently good character, but he took that character and the character's essence and went above and beyond. and carried this show in a way that, in my estimation, nobody else did. And he stole it for me in episodes 8 and 9. Like seven was it 7 and 8, and then the repercussions in 9 are just amazing to me. And I know he didn't make it to the finale. We knew he wasn't going to make it to the finale, but even with a partial season, the way that he carried this show was just unmatched, in my opinion. And that's why I had him at the top of the podium.
Yeah, I just, this character's last episode for me brought me to tears in a way that I just never, like, you could have said any character going into this season and said, hey, this character is legitimately gonna like make you cry. I never in a million years would have thought that would have happened. And it happened during this season, and it was so powerful, and dare I say, one of the most powerful scenes ever filmed of any Game of Thrones property. That scene where he walks in there and basically says Rhaenyra is some god mode level shit.
Yep. And the whole sequence with the crown dropping to the ground being improvised, and he and Matt Smith just stayed in character. Like, I love everything about that. It reminds me, I know this is going to sound cheesy, but it reminds me of the Mario meme. Like, here, King, you drop this. Like, it's gorgeous. And I love it so much. So there you have it, folks. Those are the top 10 characters from House of the Dragon Season 1 as voted by the panelists here on the Phantom Empire channel, and also some submissions submitted from folks like my lovely wife, who put together a really fun list as well. And she wrote me a little while ago going, wait a second, just how low did I have Viserys at? Like, she may be reconsidering her list just based on on the discussion that we've had. And so that is always a really fun thing, is that the influence that this show and this channel has kind of helps people think about this show a little bit more. And to me, that's a really great compliment. Next week here on the channel, we're going to be having one more full-length episode discussing Season 2 hopes and expectations. And then after that, as Sean mentioned, we are going to be continuing to pump out content, including bonus content if you're a Patreon member. There will be, more Game of Thrones related discussions to be had, but next week will be our last full episode. Other ones will be 20, 30 minutes at the most, and it'll just be some pop-up discussions in order to remind you of some of the stuff that happened from this season, and some content from books and other source materials. So be sure to hit that subscribe button and stay tuned in to the channel so that you know when those things are dropping. But it'll be our last full episode next week. But before we call it a night, let's just go back and recap that top 10 if possible. Sean, at number 10 with 13 points, Lionel Strong. At number 9 with 14 points, Larys Strong, his son. At number 8 with 30 points, Aemon Targaryen. At number 7, the tiebreaker, also with 30 points, Corlys Velaryon. At number 6 with 32 points, Otto Hightower. At number 5 with 35 points, Rhaenys Targaryen, the queen that never was. At number 4 with 42 points, Alicent Hightower. And the podium belongs to the Reds with 67 points, Daemon Targaryen in third. And at second, Rhaenyra Targaryen takes the silver medal despite having the most first place votes. And rounding out the top 10, at number 1, the king himself, Viserys the Peaceful. Thanks so much, everybody, for being a part of our top 10 discussion tonight here on Phantom Empire. You've already seen what other projects are coming up throughout the course of the episode, so we're just going to go ahead and call it a night. Thank you again for being a part of the fun. We're looking forward to you having more fun with us next week when we talk about Season 2 expectations. But that's going to do it for tonight's episode of House of the Empire. For Johnny and Sean, I'm Zach, and we'll see you next time when the Empire returns.
idea that we control the dragons is an illusion. There are power men should never have trifled with. One that brought Valeria its doom. If we don't mind our own histories, it will do the same to us.